Welcome to the important news of Afghanistan on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. The Taliban has built 15,000 religious schools to foster extremism. Fawzia Kufi, a former member of Afghanistan's parliament, recently revealed that since returning to power, the Taliban has built 15,000 religious schools. In these schools, girls are allowed to attend without any age restrictions, while at the same time they are banned from continuing their education in regular schools. According to Kufi, these schools, which have spread across all regions of Afghanistan, have become centers for promoting extremism and will likely produce female Taliban members within the next 5 years. She also expressed her deep concern about the exclusion of Afghan women from international arenas and diplomacy, pointing out that the Taliban have forced the United Nations to exclude women and civil society representatives from global meetings related to Afghanistan. Kufi warns that making concessions to the Taliban will only embolden the group to commit further human rights violations. The Women's Assembly for Afghanistan, which includes prominent figures such as Fatima Gailani, Nabila Masih, and Asla Wardak, recently met with senior officials of the United Arab Emirates. During this meeting, they called for both political and practical support from UAE for Afghan women and asked Emirati officials to raise the demands of Afghan women in their diplomatic talks with the Taliban. During their 2-day meetings with the UAE's Special Envoy for Afghanistan and officials from the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the representatives of this assembly emphasized the concerning situation of Afghan women. They explained that women's access to education, healthcare services, participation in political affairs, and the job market has been severely restricted, and they asked Emirati officials to pay special attention to the demands and suggestions of women's groups when formulating specific policies toward the Taliban. The United Arab Emirates, which has close relations with the Taliban and is occasionally visited by Taliban officials, has taken a critical stance toward the Taliban's restrictive policies against women. Last Sunday, the Afghanistan Cultural Center held its first official event in Germany with special grandeur. Fawaz Ezzatella Nijad reports.
The first event of the Afghanistan Cultural Association in the Netherlands was held with the presence of European and Dutch cultural figures. Yesterday, the Afghanistan Cultural Association held its first official event in the Netherlands with special grandeur. This cultural ceremony was attended by a remarkable number of poets, writers, painters, musicians, and cultural figures not only from Afghanistan but also from various European countries. The event began with a performance by 2 young women and the playing of traditional Afghan music, which created a warm and friendly atmosphere for the guests. Next, Wali Muhammad Shahpour, the head of the Afghanistan Cultural Association, gave a speech and stated that the purpose of establishing this cultural organization is to raise awareness among the younger generation about Afghanistan's rich culture and to preserve cultural values while living in exile.
All right, Arif Jan, could you please explain to us the significance of launching this event that you inaugurated, and what does the participation of those who attended today mean to you?
Thank you, Falajan, for your kind words. Thank God you came and supported us in holding this cultural event. Today is the very first event of the Afghanistan Cultural Center in the Netherlands, which is being held on June 21st, 2023, here in this hall. A group of cultural figures from various cities and European countries have come to join us and support us in holding this gathering together. The Afghanistan Cultural Center in the Netherlands is an organization that operates under the Union of Afghan Associations in the Netherlands, or the Afghanistan Cultural Center in the Netherlands. And for us, over the past 20 years of cultural and social work, we have created a historic chapter in the associations.
Distinguished cultural figures from European countries have also sent their congratulations and expressed their support for the cultural activities of the center. They emphasized the importance of cultural exchange between nations and the role of the diaspora in preserving cultural identity.
Hello and good day. I have a very brief message. On behalf of the Green Left Party and the Labour Party, of which I am a member of the leadership board and also a city councillor in the city of Helmand. And it is a pleasure and an honor for me to be present today at this magnificent gathering on the occasion of the first program of the Afghanistan Cultural Center in the Netherlands. Alongside you, the intellectuals, educators, and students.
This event was met with a great deal of enthusiasm, and in the end, the gathering concluded with a lively and diverse concert of Afghan music.
Even though it is especially difficult, we will do absolutely everything we can to create hope.
The Afghanistan Cultural Center intends to continue organizing similar events in the future to provide a platform for introducing Afghan culture and connecting the younger generation of immigrants with their cultural roots.
A name that is familiar to each and every one of us, a name that truly symbolizes the ancient national history of Afghanistan.
Despite this, the international television channels Zarin in the Netherlands.
Afghan Association Netherlands until.
The Afghanistan Freedom Front expressed concern over the unilateral holding of the Doha meeting on Afghanistan. This anti-Taliban front stated that the Taliban's gender apartheid regime does not deserve engagement, normalization, legitimacy, or recognition as a necessity. In a statement from this front, it is said that the Taliban cannot be reformed through dialogue and engagement. They welcomed the statements of UN representatives in the organized propaganda conversations in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. This military front warned that the unilateral invitation of the Taliban to the Doha meeting on June 30th and July 1st is unacceptable, as this group does not have the authority to represent the people of Afghanistan. The Freedom Front called on the United Nations and the international community to abandon the approach of seeking quick gains and instead begin dialogue with representatives of political parties, civil society, ethnic groups, women, and other stakeholders involved in the Afghan issue. This front emphasized that normalizing relations with the Taliban is contrary to the values of the UN Charter and international human rights documents.
The question is, on one hand, the United Nations talks about human rights, about the violation of women's and children's rights, and the psychological and mental problems that the people of Afghanistan suffer from in those areas. And on the other hand, they lobby in favor of the Taliban. It's truly astonishing. And I don't understand under what pretext the United Nations wants to recognize the Taliban at the Doha meeting or create the conditions for other countries to recognize the Taliban. So doesn't the very existence of the United Nations come into question? Absolutely, it is called into question because of these human rights violations happening in Afghanistan, especially against Afghan women and girls who are essentially living in prison, in other words, under house arrest. And on top of that, for the past 4 years, all schools and universities have been closed to girls in that country. They are not allowed to work. They can't go out freely, and even their voices are considered forbidden. And on top of all this, politically, many Afghans are risking their lives. They are leaving the country. Has the United Nations realized that these very people of Afghanistan, the educated, the teachers, the professors, the artists, and when I say artists, I mean in various fields, are all fleeing because of oppression, unemployment, significant psychological and mental pressures and the economic problems that have arisen with the arrival of the Taliban, and now the United Nations wants to recognize them. I emphasize, what answer will the United Nations and the institutions within it, which operate in the name of human rights, women's rights, children's rights, and dozens of other issues, give to this? What have they said to the people of Afghanistan, to the world? What are they saying? What kind of game are they trying to play again? I hope that the United Nations will reconsider its approach and not only refrain from recognizing the Taliban, but also put pressure on various countries around the world so that they in turn increase pressure on the Taliban, creating the conditions necessary for the Taliban to respond to the demands of the people of Afghanistan, the international community, and the United Nations.
Ahmadullah Mataki, the head of Taliban information and culture in Iraq, announced that the mass expulsion of Afghan refugees from Iran has intensified after the Iran-Israel war. According to him, before these conflicts, around 1,000 Afghan migrants were being forcibly returned to Afghanistan through the Islam-Kala border each day. But after the end of the war, this figure has increased to 9,000 forcibly deported people. Mataki stated at the ceremony that in addition to the forced expulsions, about 4,000 others are also voluntarily returning to Afghanistan through this border. He predicted that in the coming days, the total number could rise to 15,000 to 20,000 people per day.
Just as the word war itself suggests, it's truly a terrible word. And likewise, war is an extremely ominous and destructive phenomenon, not just for individuals, but for an entire region as a whole. The Israel-Iran or Iran-Israel war also carries these two serious characteristics. It has been a disastrous phenomenon for the people and residents of both countries, and at the same time, an extremely terrifying act. Unfortunately, the citizens of Afghanistan, who out of necessity and compulsion and with the understanding and pain they have endured from more than 5 decades of war in Afghanistan now, as the atmosphere of war is gradually moving toward improvement and the conflict is slowly coming to an end, or perhaps has already ended. Afghan citizens are not at ease. They are being deported, and even before that, when the war had started, Afghan citizens wanted to return to their homeland. At the Afghanistan and Iran, or Iran-Afghanistan border, both the Iranian and Afghan border forces subject them to inhumane and extremely harsh, unkind treatment. This causes them distress. We see how painful it is to experience poverty, migration, helplessness, and being forced to work, especially in a foreign country, and then to return to the embrace of the motherland, only to face suffering there as well. How much despair this brings. Even now, when we receive news through the media and the available contacts, we see that many families are searching for their so-called head of the family or breadwinner who is missing. They are trying to find their children. They can find them. Families who had gone there, meaning sisters and brothers, are trying to find their siblings or relatives are their sisters, and brothers, but they cannot find them. All of these are the hardships, damages, suffering, and distress that the war has brought upon Afghan citizens in Iran, who had become forced refugees and migrants.
And in today's social media humor segment, users are sharing a photo of a Taliban official in which the deputy governor of Farah has set up a very strange workspace for himself and has even put his secretary inside a cabinet. In this photo, the Taliban deputy governor has placed a motorcycle seat instead of a chair behind his desk and is leaning back on it while talking to visitors. That's the end of the news.